Have you ever wondered how challenger junglers make great decisions instantly in their games? It doesn't matter what ridiculous situation solo queue throws at them, it always feels like they know exactly what to do to get as big of a lead as possible. Meanwhile, when you play, people are dying left and right. You're being invaded, random fights are happening, it's pure chaos on the Rift. Not only do you have to adapt to a bunch of random things going on, but you also need to make those decisions instantly. Jungle is a role about efficiency, so contemplating your actions isn't really something you can afford to do. That's what we're going to discuss in this video. We'll be explaining why good junglers always know what to do, no matter what, in an instant. Likewise, we'll break down why bad junglers collapse under the randomness of solo queue and throw games all the time. Since we mentioned adapting to crazy circumstances, let's take a look at a game where that's exactly what happened. Here, we see the blue team invading the jungle and finding multiple picks at level 1. We're all aware of how frustrating it is when this happens. The game hasn't even started yet, and Nocturne could only spectate as his teammates gave over 3 kills, and now they're down 1,500 gold before camps have even spawned. So why are we covering a game with a silly start like this? Although your teammates dying isn't new, you're very unlikely to ever find yourself in a game exactly like this one. The thing about League that is important to understand is that the game's strategic depth isn't that hard to understand. Most concepts in this game are fairly simple, and players can easily follow along when we discuss them. The hard part about League, though, is knowing how to apply really basic concepts to the super niche situations that solo queue will throw at you, and most importantly, doing it quickly. You don't have time to just sit around and think about what you should do. So although you'll never find yourself in a situation quite as weird as this one, the skill is learning how to instantly react to whatever the game throws your way. Let's break down the main things to look at for Nocturne here. 1, his team may be down a ton of gold, but he has a massive advantage over Lee at the moment. Lee got no kills and had to base while camps have already spawned. This game starts looking bad, but a competent jungler can easily turn this game around on their own if they play properly. So let's take a look at what Nocturne does as a response. He finishes Raptors, goes to red, and then paths to Wolves right afterwards. Without having to think about it too much, do you think this was a good or a bad opening route by Nocturne? You should have immediately realized that this was a bad play by Nocturne because he's not playing around his tempo advantage. Lee had to base, wait to heal in the fountain, then walk back to his jungle without boots. Not only that, but he even had to react to another ridiculous fight that's going on in bot lane. Yes, he got a kill off that, but he can't spend the gold yet. If anything, that kill just slowed him down even more. Nocturne, seeing all of that, should immediately be aware of his tempo lead over Lee. Nocturne got to start his camps at around 1 minute and 50 seconds. Lee didn't touch his first camp until an entire minute later. He has literally a 60-second head start over Lee Sin in the jungle. If he can't convert that into anything, it will be an insane blunder. So let's review what he did again. He did Raptors, red, Wolves, and then followed that up with blue, Gromp, and then Scuttle. Then he went mid to gank at level 3. Lee happened to be in the area and had hit level 3 as well by now. Nothing ends up happening and both sides disengage. We cannot emphasize just how bad that was. He had a 60-second advantage and he's ganking a lane while being the same level as Lee Sin. Before mentioning what Nocturne should have done, this is a great opportunity to point out that he could have gotten ahead even with terrible decision making. His clearing skills were not bad, but not great. Nocturne lost about 5 or 7 seconds overall on his initial clear. As a result, take a look at this moment. If he'd been slightly faster, Nocturne could have already been here, in position to gank Veigar at a much better timing. Or he could have maybe scouted Raptors and been able to push Lee off the area. Even with his terrible pathing, he could have gotten a massive lead just from optimizing his clear speed. This is why we highly recommend that you watch our jungle clearing course over at Skillcap. Jungle clearing is so important that you can often win games even when you make the wrong choices just by clearing your jungle faster and more effectively. It's incredibly important, which is why we make sure to keep our clearing guides updated every single season so you can adapt to the jungle changes that happen every year. We cannot emphasize this enough. Jungle clear speed is by far the most important skill to learn in this role, which is why we place such high priority on our clearing guides so you always have the best info to optimize your clear. But first, let's talk about his actual decision making now. Let's go back to the start of the clear. How should Nocturne know what to do here? This game had a crazy start. It's a situation you'll never find yourself in, but you know that a challenger player would know how to path instantly. How? Let's take a look at a good player like G2's Yike in an incredibly similar situation to answer this question. At the start of the game, Yike dies to a 5-man stack while he tries to get vision. Not only does he die, but eventually his Jace does as well. As a response, his bot lane tries to cheese Karthus at his blue, but they just end up trading both their lives to kill Karthus. Just like the Nocturne game, it's pure chaos. His team is down 1k gold, but Yike has a tempo lead over Karthus. What's the best punish though? How do you know instantly what to do in a situation like this? It's simple. You don't need to make the best play possible. You just need to make a play that makes use of the advantage that you have. Yike has a tempo lead, so anything that's based on clearing his jungle faster than Karthus is going to be a decent option. If he full clears, Karthus will be behind in the clear. So Yike gets to gank a lane first or just secure double scuttle while Karthus is still catching up. Or instead of ganking our double scuttle, he could just choose to recall after his full clear. That way he's out on the map with an item advantage first. And obviously, tempo leads are insanely good at letting you invade as well. So he does 2 camps and then paths towards Karthus' Raptors. This gives him a quick level 3, which he can then use to secure red too. And just like that, he's starting to stabilize the game from such a bad early start. Let's wrap back to what Nocturne did to understand why it's so bad. His initial clear was Raptors, red, and wolves. Why is this so awful? Think about it like this. By doing these 3 specific camps, Nocturne is still level 2. Lee only has to do a single camp to equalize that power. Yeah, he's farmed more camps, but he and Lee would be the same in strength if they were to encounter each other on the map. Now, here's the problem with the full clear he did. Nocturne did every camp except Krugs, which is a clear that leaves you barely outside of level 4, which has the exact same issue as before. With literally half of the jungle camps, Lee is level 3 as well, which is the exact same strength as Nocturne. Do you see why Nocturne's start is so bad now? He's pathing in a way where his tempo advantage is completely meaningless. It might actually be the worst pathing he could have done. You don't need to make the perfect decision to get ahead. You just need to make a decision that makes sense based on the advantage that you actually have. Tempo isn't the only thing bad junglers fail to play around properly. Another big one is power. A power advantage is based on your level, items, or health remaining. Basically, if you can outfight your opponent, you have a power advantage. Let's continue in this Nocturne game after the 2v2 encounter. Although no one died, Lee did have to base and ended up recalling to buy a pickaxe with his earlier kill. While that happens, Nocturne stuck around in the jungle and took scuttle and eventually looked to invade Lee's blue. Of course, this took too long. Lee comes back and abuses his power advantage to beat Nocturne in the 1v1. Watching low elo junglers play, it becomes really clear how bad they are at playing around a power advantage. Lee just got a kill over Nocturne because he fought while he had a pickaxe power spike, but then he decides to fight down an entire level after Nocturne purchased Serrated Dirk. It's no wonder he lost the fight this time. It's clear he doesn't even know why he won the earlier 1v1. He's playing without much thought. There's a very simple rule to follow in your decision making when you're stronger or weaker than your opponent. For that, let's take a look at an example from another game. As Graves clears his jungle, he notices that the enemy Lee Sin has done a quick 3-camp clear and ganked his Kennen. However, Kennen plays this very well and manages to not only live, but also chunk both Jace and Lee while getting away. That's the dream top laner right there. Graves could see all of this and he finished his Raptor camp. Despite this knowledge, he proceeds to continue pathing normally when he could very easily pivot to invade and take all of Lee's blue side camps. What do you think? Do you think this is a good or bad decision by Graves to not invade? Many players seeing that Lee gank would get baited into invading here. However, this is C9 Blabber, who definitely knows what he's doing, so he just paths towards his own blue side. Why? When it comes to having power advantage, there's a simple rule you want to follow. Always try to play closer to the enemy jungle. Or if you're weaker, play far away from them. Imagine Blabber invaded here. What does Lee get to do? The first option is that Lee just counter invades. Even though Blabber has a health lead, it wouldn't matter. He wouldn't be there to punish Lee for being half HP, so they'd just trade evenly. The second option Lee has is to re-gank top. It doesn't matter that he's low HP if Blabber is on the other side of the map. Kennen would be in for a very miserable time this way. Or his final side, Lee bases, buys a longsword, and comes to his bot side. Yeah, he's lost a camp or two, but he can now just push Graves off his jungle and run around with an item lead. None of those outcomes makes good use of the fact that Lee is half HP. It's not like Blabber calculated all of that in 2 seconds. He just saw a half HP Lee Sin and remembered the simple rule for when you have a power advantage. You want to be in the same area as the enemy jungler, so he just kept pathing toward where Lee was. It doesn't matter what Lee does, Blabber comes out ahead. But if Lee tries to invade, he'll just kill him. If Lee tries to re-gank Kennen, Blabber could be there to 2v2, and they'd win the fight guaranteed. Lee's best option is to concede the area and run all the way back to his bot side. In that case, Blabber would have a massive tempo lead and could play towards that advantage now. Like we said, any option up here was likely to be a good outcome for him. He just happened to gank Jace, but any option he chose by pathing to this side of the map would have worked just as well. When jungling, it can feel overwhelming having to make the correct choice at all times, especially when there's a bunch of random things that happen on the map. But just remember these guidelines. You don't have to make the best choice to come out ahead. You usually have multiple good options to choose from. All you need to do is make sure that your decision is based on the current advantage that you have. If you do that, you can often make great decisions in an instant, just like challenger players do. Anyway, thanks for watching.